So for the container demo, essentially, I'm gonna briefly show you like 3 use cases that we use Docker to kind of integrate the CI, CD, and CT, which is continuous testing workflow. We heavily use and leverage standard open source DevOps tools, things like Docker, Vagrant, Ansible scripts, and essentially, we want to use standardized tooling so that it makes it easy to extend and also to maintain. Now, the tests themselves are written, as Jakob mentioned, in a variety of languages, along with the associated, unit test frameworks that goes along with each language. So things like Java has, JUnit, TestNG, Python has PyTest, Ruby has RSpec, and et cetera, et cetera. So essentially, we integrate the different kind of tests, the tooling and the ecosystem into our underlying framework. Okay. For scenario number 3, we have a little bit slightly different involving mobile / Android, basically Android. So now we have we containerize Appium. The tooling framework is containerized also, but this time we have, the mobile emulator itself running locally. Okay, it's possible to further containerize this guy, but just to keep things simple, I just made it straight emulator. So let me see. Hold on 1 second. Let me just launch the emulator. Okay, let me put this to the side, and let me launch the Appium server. It's running inside of container. Okay, so I'm just launch that. Takes a little bit of time. Oh, there we go. I don't know why. Oh, it's running now. Great. So emulator is running. So now we run the functional test. This time is this test is now geared towards mobile applications. Okay. So the tests themselves are written in robot framework. And
which framework? Sorry.
Robot.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we use the same language / framework. So it just kind of launches python.org, and then I'm sorry, actually it goes to the browser page. I'm sorry. And launches python.org, verifies a couple of keywords on that page, and then just shuts down. Okay. And let me just quickly show you here. And it generates a report at the end, just like the previous 2 use cases. Just a robot framework report. And I'm just going to expand it. And as you can see, it basically captures screenshots along the way, and then verifies, some text is it there, and then finally shuts down, basically. So, I forgot to mention this. So essentially, we have emulator running separately on the machine, and then Appium in a container, the tooling / framework in a separate container, versus in this configuration. And then it is also possible to run devices in the cloud. In that case, we have this, I believe, ADB bridge or something, kind of connects the devices with the local machine. And it's possible also, but we didn't go this route. Yeah. But anyways, so finally, essentially, the idea is to have all the different pieces sitting itself in a separate containers, right? And then essentially having Jenkins to kind of coordinate and to kind of, coordinate the different workflows to kind of the testing workflow, essentially. Yep. So
Jenkins who coordinates that, or your framework?
Well, we'll use Jenkins to kind of coordinate overall overall sequencing. Yeah. But yeah.
But if you
although
go,
our framework is able to do that too, but just to kind of simplify things, yeah, we use Jenkins. Yeah.
Okay. So it means that the Jenkins has kind of a precedence over your framework in when it comes to execution.
Could you? I didn't get the first part. Could you repeat again your question?
I think that the control over execution of the test cases actually you delegate to the Jenkins, not to your framework.
Oh, actually, Jenkins calls our framework, and then our framework is the one that,
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Next question is that, say when the test case fails, okay, or passes, what's the criteria? Essentially, I understand that automation engineer needs to run the test case where, for example, in your case, that's searching for a text, right? The text is found, and then how this information is passed to your test framework. So if it fails or passed, how it is done.
So we capture logs at every step along the way, and then whenever a test fails, right, it doesn't stop right away at the end. So for each test, a runner is basically a runner object is instantiated. So the runner runs that particular test, and then the runner will capture the logs and the stack trace, and finally gets the status code. So and then yeah. So depending on the status code, all these things gets captured, and then finally the report gets aggregated at the end, and that's where you kind of see, the pass and fail, overall pass and fail for the tests. Yeah.
Okay, so you're looking for specific keywords which must be present in a test log file, or actual test log.
That's right.
Error and successful. Okay.
Yes, we customize it to like fatal error, things like, or Java stack trace and things like that. Capture those, and then depending on the severity of it, it becomes like a fatal error or just a warning kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay. Next question is that you actually kick out the test case from the framework. That's okay. Is there any separate thread? It should be separate thread which monitors the execution in a case if test case hangs or some unexpected things happen. Do you have that?
Yes. So essentially, for those cases, we use we're kind of simplifying things. We use Jenkins basically. There's one or two ways you can do this. So one is when we're running on Linux servers or Mac, we use signals, right? We set timer. We set a specific amount of time to run, but those are really hard to quantify / determine, because depending on how many tests gets run, and then if the test, depending on the web app, how it behaves, and if there's a lot of timeouts and things like that, because those kind of make things really difficult to. But we generally can set a hard timeout in the framework, or we can set it in Jenkins itself too. It's one of two ways to do it.
Is it possible to do on a test case level?
On the test case level, good question. No, currently no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because right now I'm working with a framework which had that problem. Some of the test cases fail intermittently because of the timeout.
Right. Okay? That's right. Oh,
and
that's bad.
A lot of noise. So that's a bad thing. But something like that would relieve it. And if it was possible to basically individually tune these several test cases, not many, out of say tens of thousands of test cases, that would be much better.
I see. Good point.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
And again, it's Jenkins. Just we took as example. It could be useful from Unhill Pro, different release engineering tool, because our test robot, it's running from command line, and we can build into any workflow same approach like with Jenkins.